got some problems that you wanna solve? Then let's chat. That job getting on your nerves? Then let's chat. Girl, you know I can relate, so let's chat. Cause I'ma tell you what the bottom line is.
I'ma tell you what the bottom line is. I'ma tell you what the bottom line is. I'ma tell you what the bottom.
It's your girl Cece. I'm your hostess with the mostest.
I'ma tell you what the bottom line is.
All right. It's your girl Cece, and I am back with another episode of The Bottom Line Is. And today's guest is my girl, Wanda Belle. And she is the founder and CEO of Belle Financial Services. So we're going to be talking, you guessed it, about finances. Now, don't run away because this is a conversation that you need to hear, okay? We're going to be guiding you through some tips on how you can make things less stressful in your life and really just kind of digging down to the meat and potatoes of it all and how to prepare for what you want the rest of your life to look like. So with that being said, Wanda, if you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So first off, I love this. I love the intro. I love the podcast. I love this. All right.
Thank you.
But like you said, so I'm the CEO and founder of Belle Financial Services. It's just a financial consulting firm where we specialize in hands-on financial coaching, because sometimes I think a lot of people just don't know where to start with their finances. They don't know, like, should they be saving first, paying down debt, working on their credit score? Like, what should we be doing if
Right.
we've never really looked at our finances before? And so my approach is we're going to hold your hand and we are going to identify what your obstacles are, what your goals are, kind of what got you to this point, and then we're going to create a plan to get you to reaching your goals, like an actionable plan that you walk away with, and we're going to check to make sure that we hold you accountable to that plan. So
that's what it's about, accountability.
Yeah, for sure. And I started the business mainly because, like, in my own personal life, I made some mistakes financially.
We all have, girl.
Like, those early 20s were a nightmare for me. And I didn't have anybody telling me what I should do, what I shouldn't do, what to avoid. And so by the time I figured out I needed to take control, I was in way over my head. Like, I had a lot of anxiety because I just didn't know where to start. And so I educated myself. Like, I really had to educate myself, ask questions, find the right people to talk to. And then I made a plan and got myself out of debt. I rebound from a 472 credit score.
Wow.
472. Like, I could say it now. Because my credit score is good.
It's amazing.
It's great. And if you follow me on TikTok, every so often I share my credit score just because I'm really transparent, and I feel like if I'm helping people with their finances, you need to be able to trust that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. But that's kind of why I started the business, is because I was in a really bad financial space. I worked my way out of it. And then I see how beautiful life can be when you get to the other side. And I just think it's something like, we as a people, we got to talk about it more. And we got to each one teach one, because the schools aren't doing it for us. And I just feel like if I could just help one person better their financial profile, then my job is done. So thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And it's always good to catch up. And so, you hit on a couple of different points. So about school, we learn so many things in school. There's not much of that really helps us when we become an adult, but hey,
none.
Who am I? I can't dictate the school system, but I'd rather know about how to manage my finances than to know that George Washington was the first president.
Right.
I'm just
like, or all the math that they teach us, like trigonometry and all that. Like, can you just teach me how to budget?
Exactly.
How about that?
Like, I mean, calculus. Is that going to help me,
No,
figure out what I owe to this person? No.
no. Like,
It's
teach
not
me
going
about
to
interest
do
rates.
anything.
Teach
No.
teach me about that, or
Yeah,
teach me about taking the first steps to like build credit. That's so important. That's such an
it really
important
is.
concept, especially in this country. Like, credit is used for so many things, and we learn nothing about it in school.
Nope.
That's
It's just
insane.
so underrated. And you don't really start thinking about your credit or your finances, like you said, until it's literally too late in some
Literally.
instances. You know what I mean? And I remember, I don't know where I was when I heard a story, and somebody was saying that a parent used their child's social security number to
Oh my
try to
God.
get credit for it. And I was why are you going to mess up your child's
I
credit too?
see it all the time,
Why?
unfortunately. But see, that's the thing. A lot of times when we're introduced to the idea of a credit score, it's,
Hmm.
we get a credit card offer,
Hmm.
or we're in the store and they're like, open this card and save 20%, things like that. And
Hmm.
sometimes what I have seen is, because a parent may not know the damage that like bad credit can cause,
Right.
they are more willing to use their kids' information than their own. And it really sets the child up for like
For
a
failure.
lot,
It's
a
not
lot of
fair. It's not.
failure. It's really not fair. And you would be surprised how often I see it. Like, I see
I
it a
couldn't believe
lot.
it. I know I was young at the time, but I was just like, "Are you serious?" I thought somebody was telling a lie when I heard that
No.
case, and I could not believe that people actually
Yeah.
do that.
People actually do it, and then that person has to work their way out of debt that they didn't even generate, but
Yeah,
it's
so they're
tied
already
to
sitting
them.
here working paycheck to paycheck, and
Yeah,
they haven't even gotten a degree, haven't even finished school or
but
anything.
got bills.
I
Yeah.
tell you, but with that note, generational wealth.
Mhm.
And, again, we don't learn it in school.
Mhm.
And if your parents aren't used to it and they're living paycheck to paycheck and, doing what they need to do to get by, which is most appreciative. However,
Yeah.
if they're not teaching us those lessons that they're learning as we're growing up, then how are you to know? It's like, I don't know if it's a culture thing. It's just our people that just don't do that. It's just, do we not think ahead? I don't understand.
I think it's a little, it's all of that, all of the
Hmm.
above.
Hmm.
I think as a culture, I don't necessarily think it's our fault. I
Hmm.
think that as a culture, we are up against a lot.
Right.
Okay, just we
That's true.
we are up against a lot,
Every day.
and every single day, and we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Okay, a lot of other cultures are more open with wanting to create a wealth for the family,
Hmm.
and we are trying to get it out the mud. Like, we're trying to like make something of ourselves, and it's just, we're living to survive day to day, that sometimes it's harder to think about everybody else. Like, I know my parents, they married young, they had kids young, and for most of my like for most of my childhood, my parents were saving because we just didn't have
Hmm.
a lot. Um, and so I knew that it was important to save. I knew it was great if you're able to find a deal. Like, my mama
Hmm.
is like thrift store queen. She would put an outfit together for $5 and be
I know
proud.
that's right.
She'd be proud to say, "I got a and it would look good." Like,
Right.
that's the crazy part. But like, I understood that it was important to save,
Hmm.
but I don't remember us really having conversations around credit,
Right.
around like, what do you do when you're 18 and you're out there in the world? We went to college together, and I
Exactly.
didn't necessarily have so much of a say in opening my student loans. Like, I didn't, it
No,
was, my
that was
parents
the
just,
thing to do. Get a
it was a
student
thing
loan.
to
And
do.
people are still paying for it, and they in their 30s, 40s. You still paying off college that you finished, and probably
Yeah,
don't even have in some places working the job that you got the degree for.
exactly. And so we just don't know what we don't know. And I think
Right.
that's why it's so important that for all of us, even if you
Mhm.
don't know, you can at least start by analyzing your income versus your expenses. Start
Mhm.
there. Start there by like taking a look to see like, is the money that I'm making
Mhm.
covering everything that I'm paying out? And if it's not, then okay, we need to figure out how we can decrease those expenses and increase
Right.
our income. But I think like we just we don't have time, or we don't want to face our financial situation a lot of times because it's not something that we talk about in our culture.
Right.
And I'm really trying to change that. Like in my household, we talk about money. we
Yeah.
I've been talking to my son about money since he was about 7 years old.
That's all.
And yeah, and it's because I did not want him to make the same mistakes that I did. Like, I did not want him to have to deal with debt, have to deal with being upside down on a car loan because you just didn't know any better, because you ran up a credit card and got yourself a 472 credit score. Like, those are all things that I did. And
Right.
so, even at 7 years old, I just focused on showing him the basics of working for a dollar.
Mhm.
Like we had a chore system that I put in place literally like he was 7, about to turn 8.
Mhm.
And we put this chore system in place where like I got a whiteboard that I would put on my fridge, and every
Mhm.
day I would write down his chores. And he was 7. So it was
Right.
like
Right.
load
Right.
the dishwasher. Like it was
Basic stuff,
little
but it still teaches you. You know.
right. But the key was, so this is what I did. I wrote down the chore, and at the bottom in the corner there would be a dollar amount assigned to the chore. So it
Mhm.
would say like load the dishwasher for $2.
Mhm.
But if I had to tell him to check the board, or I had to tell him to do the chore, he didn't get the money. So it
Mm.
was his
Okay.
responsibility to check the board on his own, do his chore, and
Right.
then he would be able to get the money. And
I love
so
that.
I use that to instill a discipline for him to understand like if you want the money, you have to work for it, but you have to work without being told that you have to do it. And
Mhm.
it worked like a charm. Like
That's awesome.
it worked like a charm. And we had that board like from the time he was about 7 to 8, um, through middle school. Like we had it and we stuck to it. And then I would do things just to like make it fun. Like after a while, I stopped giving him the money every day. We would
Mhm.
like, I would keep a tally of it. So at the end of the week, I would tally it up. That would be his paycheck. And
Okay.
then he started doing stuff like saving his paychecks for like toys and stuff like that, or
Right.
electronics. So I was able to kind of turn it into something fun for him where he would get excited for saving. And
Mhm.
then once he got to once he got to middle school, I took it a step further and I started letting him budget for like school shopping.
Okay.
So I would like for school clothes, I would have him clean out his room and get rid of things that were like too small or just like worn. We would take
Mhm.
that stuff to the Goodwill, and then he would make a list based off all the stuff that he got rid of. He would make a list, and it would be like, okay, I need this many shirts, I need this many pair of pants because that's what I got rid of. Like I need to
That's
replenish
awesome.
it.
And that's a hard thing to teach a child to be disciplined on. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Well, year one was a mess. My boy, he was stressed out. He
He was
was,
finding his way.
girl, girl, he was so stressed out. Like he had his list together, but then I think what threw him off was I gave him the money,
Mhm.
and sixth grade, because I would set a budget based off, I would take a look to see what he wrote on his list. And then
Mhm.
just, as a mom, I would set a budget and I would physically give him the money. And the caveat was, okay, you got to get everything that you need on your list. I will take you to as many stores as you want and we can shop around for good prices, but you got to get everything on your list. If you have any money left over, it's yours to keep. And I think year one, he was just like, wait, I don't want to spend anything. He
Right.
wanted all the money
You want to
for
get
his
them for
toy.
yourself.
But
Yeah.
by year two, he had it like down to a science. And I did the same thing. Like we did that with school clothes and then school
Mhm.
supplies too. And same thing. He would have me going to Walmart, Office Max, Staples. He would have me going all over for different things because he understood like, okay, I gotta get my essentials. I gotta get those
Mhm.
fixed expenses, the things that I need. But if I don't spend all my money, I can keep the rest for the
Right.
things that I want. So, and that's like those were two things that I did for my kid, the whiteboard system and just letting him be in charge of his like back to school stuff. And
Mhm.
that just helped build the discipline and the understanding that, you need to save,
Mhm.
you need to actually be aware of the money that you're spending. You need to shop for deals, and the money that you're able to save, you can use for fun. And
Yeah.
now at 18, I see it worked because he's very smart about his money.
Good.
He
He's
works,
above his friends at this point with that too. Hopefully he's teaching
yeah.
them some lessons.
He's like he sticks to a budget. He sticks to a budget. He works full time and he makes sure like he has certain bills that he pays. He
Mhm.
makes sure that he has his money together at all times, and it's great to see because again, I wish somebody had taught us
Yeah. It's
about
good to
that.
see, the things that you put into place like actually, work. You know,
Yeah,
I did something similar with my sisters. I used to have them you like we go out to the store. I used to say, okay, well, this is the credit card, and make them like pay with
that's
the to the
yep,
cashier to understand,
yeah,
those type of things. And then it was a point where I had them be like my assistants and
yeah,
to look at the account, pay the bill, understand, well, what bill can be paid, what can't be
yep.
paid, and different things like that. And so it's just those little things that,
It goes
just
far.
giving them tasks to really
Yeah,
make them think outside the box. Like, yeah, they can go watch video games, but until they make a financial video game that's going to really teach them,
yeah. We gotta
I, uh,
We got to do it. And that's the thing too. I think just because going back to just as us as a culture, we are so used to just like doing what we got to do to get to the next day. I think sometimes we forget that the kids don't know certain things until we teach them. So something as simple as giving them the credit card to let them do the transaction in the store. To us, that might seem so small, but to a kid who's never done that before, it's meaningful. And so just being intentional about like doing certain things or including your kids in conversation as it relates to money will take you so it will take people so far because now that I'm on the other side and my son will be 19 in a couple weeks and I see that me talking to him about money at 7 or 8 years old, like, yo, that boy was listening. Like,
right.
he was listening
It's
to
that
me.
part, the listening
It's that
ear. That
part. And even, I mean, I did something a little crazy that people might say is crazy, but I genuinely have zero regrets. I actually built my son an apartment in the basement when he was 17. Well, was he 17? He moved in when he was 17. And so I did this for a couple different reasons. Most of them were financial. One of the main reasons were we've been stuck to the hip since he was born, and
right,
we just needed some space. Like we just needed some space. I'm a single parent.
right.
I needed my boy to like just have his own space outside of just being attached to me 24/7. And so I bought a house in 2020. It's a little too big for us, but again, I bought it with that basement in mind. I saw the potential, and I was
Mhm.
able to use the equity from the house to build out a 4-room apartment for him. And it's a full apartment, like own
That is
separate
cool.
entrance, full kitchen, living room, bathroom, and bedroom. So he has everything he needs down there. And I did it because I wanted him to have that space, but also I wanted to show him how important it is to be responsible for your own space. And I wanted to take him through the process of not just the build, but the furnishing too. How much stuff costs.
Right, because you can have your
Like
nice place, but if you, I've seen some people or things on TikTok, they just have a sleeping bag, but a nice place,
literally,
because that's all you can
literally.
do right now.
And
So,
honestly, when I first got, I mean, that project was not cheap because
I believe it.
you're talking it's a pretty nice size apartment, and I had just frames when we moved in. And
Hmm.
so I had to pay for the construction of it, the plumbing, the HVAC, all of that. I had to pay for all of that. But I also wanted to furnish it quickly because I
Hmm.
wanted him to see how much things cost. He knows how much his stove costs, he knows how much his fridge costs, his dishwasher, all of that. And even in that process, I took him through how I was budgeting it all. I had a spreadsheet of like
That's
every single
awesome.
piece of furniture I needed to get. I set a budget for each piece of furniture. I
Hmm.
set a store, like where I wanted to get it from. And
Hmm.
then I had another column that I was like plugging in the actual numbers to tell
Hmm.
me whether I stayed in line with the budget I set.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so I took him through that because now, like, I feel confident that when my son does move out, he's gonna know how to do certain things to just
Right.
like live on his own. Like my boy cooks down there. Like
That's awesome. That it's a beautiful thing again to see when your hard work, how
when
it
your
ends
hard
up.
work pays off,
Yeah,
it's
it's
great.
being independent, responsible. I mean, what more can you ask for? You know?
Yeah. And but honestly, like if you would have asked 25-year-old me if I saw myself here at
Mhm.
38, I don't think I would have if I hadn't
Right.
have gotten serious about really taking control of my finances. My
Yeah.
25th birthday, I spent crying in bed because
Oh my gosh.
I had my son with me, and I
Hmm.
was broke. I mean,
Yeah.
I was living in a girl's basement because I was newly divorced,
Hmm.
living in a girl's basement. The basement didn't even have a door.
Wow.
Like, and I was living in that basement just trying to figure out how I'm going to feed this kid. Like, what am I going to do? And I broke down on my 25th birthday. And
Yeah.
once I kind of got myself together and I just realized, like, this is not how my life is supposed to be, I just made a promise to myself, like, my kid doesn't deserve this. And so I'm going to get out of it. And I literally, like, kept my head down and just focused on, and I did, like, I took small baby steps. I just
Yeah.
focused on, all right, let me pay off this creditor that won't stop calling me. Like,
Hmm.
let me pay this off. I picked up shifts that I could, like, when I could, to like increase my income and then
Right.
just use that income to pay down debt, you know?
And that's what I
And
was going to ask you. Like, what steps when you finally hit that rock bottom, and said,
mhm,
I can't keep going like this. I have to make a change. Like,
mhm.
what steps did you take first? Did you focus on trying to do the credit score? Did you focus on paying on debt? Like, what direction for people that are in like similar situations should they take first?
So the first thing that I did was I started researching like
Hmm.
how to get out of debt because the debt was the one thing that was bothering me the most because the creditors wouldn't stop calling.
Gotcha.
I didn't necessarily need to work on my credit score right then and there because it was like, all right, yeah, I'm in this bad car loan, but at least I got a car right now. Like,
Hmm.
at least I have a car. I got some place to lay my head. Like, let me
Right.
focus on getting out of debt. And I also thought, like, if I can get out of debt and free up some of my money, I can use that to increase my credit score by like paying off my credit cards and stuff like that. Like, as you get out of debt, it will affect your credit score. It'll help your credit score. So I literally just I, I did the hardest thing that most people, shy away from. I got a pen and paper, and I wrote down every single debt that I knew of, that I knew that I had. Okay. And I wrote down who the creditor was, how much I thought I owed, or how much I knew I owed, and
Right.
then whether or not there was an interest rate with that debt. And I just looked at it and I studied it. And I just thought to myself, where should I start?
Mhm.
Now, based off of my income at the time, I just started with the smallest debt because I wasn't making a lot of money. I didn't have a lot to give out. So I
Right.
just started with the smallest one and I just focused on paying that one off. And then I moved to the next one. And I literally stuck to this. I between ages 25 and 27, that's when I really transformed my whole story. Because I
Mhm.
focused on my debt. Any extra money that I made went towards my debt. And people probably thought I was crazy at the time because I was really like to myself. I
Mhm.
kind of cut the fun out of my life for a
Right.
while. I sacrificed a lot because I just knew I had to get out of debt. As I was getting out of the debt, I would get the credit score alerts. Like
Mhm.
your score is going up. I paid off a credit card. That increased my credit score. And it
Okay.
gave me motivation to keep going. And
Right.
so once I paid off the debt, then I focused on let's save. Like let's save some money. And that's what I advise a lot of people to do. Honestly, if you're on a fixed income, let's pay some things off so we can free up that money. But then we also need to focus on saving. Now
Mhm.
that I'm kind of on the other side of it, I think saving is extremely, extremely
It is.
important. Okay. But when you're first starting out, it's hard to pay off debt and save. It's hard. It's hard to do both if your money is only stretching but so far. And so my personal belief is if you pay off your debt and just free your money up a bit, you can then use that. And it's important that you repurpose that money into savings and building
Mhm.
yourself just a nice savings like nest egg. But as you get rid of your debt, your credit score is going to go up. And I mean,
Mhm.
one thing that really helped me too is once I was able to pay down my debt and save, like I focused on saving after my debt was paid. I took that savings and then I got myself out of that car loan. So I literally, I mean, it was a lot of money. I paid that car off three years early
Wow.
because I had to get away. That interest rate was like 26%.
Oh my God.
It was horrible.
Woo. Yeah.
Horrible. At a 472 credit score.
Yeah. I didn't even know they went that high. Like,
Girl.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Kudos to
So
you again. Like that is
listen,
awesome.
I have some stories. Like
But
it's
that's
the
what it's
reason why
about.
I'm
Your
so
testimony is going to help somebody else, on their journey.
yeah.
Because I see and come across so many people on social media. Oh, I can help you get out of credit. And I feel like they kind of create that facade too,
Mhm.
that it's just so simple to do so. And it's like, it's not. And that's what I do like about your business with the hand holding, because people need that. Like, I don't want to say, oh, I want to get out of debt. And then I just get an email with some instructions and go follow.
Yeah, no.
If I knew what I was doing, I wouldn't have reached out to begin with. Right.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that again, like that's why I'm so like passionate about this. And it's really
mhm,
why I started my business is because I wish I had somebody that could hold my hand, tell me that it does get better, tell
mhm,
me that you shouldn't be ashamed of what you're going through. Because again, we're
mhm,
not taught this stuff. And the
right.
first thing, like when I'm having a one-on-one consultation with someone,
Mhm,
most of the time within the first like 5 to 10 minutes as they're telling me what they're dealing with, I see the shame written all over their face. I see the embarrassment. And I'm quick to say, like, all right, we're going to take the shame out of this conversation because I've been there. You're talking to
right.
somebody who literally, I was right where you are, if not worse. So if
Right.
I can do it, you can do it. So let's not focus on the shame, but let's put a plan together so you can take action and get out of this hole. And I think like sometimes people just need some hope. Like sometimes people
Yeah.
just need to know that they can do it no matter what your situation is. And then we do live in a society where there are a lot of misconceptions about credit. And I would tell any and everybody that there is no easy fix
Right.
to restoring bad credit. There's no
It's so
easy
much
fix.
easier to bring that credit score down and so much work to bring it back up. And that's what people don't realize.
Yeah.
And I know some people will say, oh, I have 3 credit cards. I got 5. I have
Hmm.
my retail ones and then I got the major ones. I mean, what's your take on having these multiple credit cards? Because I, for years, had one. I just got a second one.
Okay. So I have two takes. All right. So
Okay.
follow me. My first take is when you're on the other side of it, I don't see anything wrong with having multiple credit cards. And
Hmm.
when I say when you're on the other side of it, when you know how to manage them, I
Okay.
myself have multiple credit cards, but
Hmm.
they all have a purpose.
Hmm.
So when you have very good credit,
Hmm.
you can get a card. Matter of fact, my son's apartment furniture, I financed that with a store credit card. The reason I
Hmm.
did that is because I didn't have to pay interest for 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
For
Right.
5 years. They gave me a credit line
And
of
that's a
30.
long time. That's actually rare. I feel like for 5 years.
That's what happens when and that's the thing. In today's time, in
Mhm.
2024, I don't see a lot of retailers giving you 5 year no
Right.
interest like plans. But
Right.
in 2020, getting a 5 year no interest plan was the
Hmm.
result of the fact that I had a 787 credit score.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I I did that because, like I said, all of my cards have a purpose. And the
Hmm.
limit that they gave me was $30,000. You mean to tell me I can finance that for 5 years and not have to pay interest, and I know I can afford it?
What store was that? I need that store.
It was it was rooms to go.
Oh,
I bought his living room set, his bedroom set, his
that's all.
dining table. I bought all of that from Rooms to Go because they gave me such a great deal. Now I didn't use that whole 30,000, Jesus.
Right, of course.
I stayed within what I could afford,
And
but
hold up, let's just pause there. Just because you get a high
that doesn't
approval,
say
okay,
it.
that
Say
does not
it.
mean that you have to use it all. No,
No, that does
that's
not mean you have to use all the
sorry.
credit
I
that
just had
they
to say
give
that.
you. You sound like me now because you be fussing like I be fussing.
I mean,
But
because that's people be thinking they balling. They're like, oh, I got approved for 15,000. I got all this money. No,
no,
how you going? You got 15,000 to pay it though? Oh,
exactly.
so.
And what people don't realize is as you get closer and closer to that limit, like
Hmm.
let's say your limit is 15,000 and you
Right.
got a balance of 12, 13,000, that's affecting your credit score severely.
Yeah, because that's
So
the income to debt ratio, right?
so that is actually credit utilization. So
Credit
your credit
utilization.
utilization makes up a very, very good portion of your overall credit score. So if
Hmm.
you have cards, you don't want to run them up to the limit. Well, number one, I don't think you should ever have a balance carry over month to month on
Hmm.
any card, honestly. But if you do have a balance, just make sure it's on the cards that don't have an interest rate or have a
Yeah,
very
those
low
interest
interest
rates
rate.
are insane.
Yeah.
I don't even pay
So,
attention to it. And my aunt just
oh,
said
it's
today, she said, I think a car she just got from Michael's, whatever, so she could get the little deal, was like 30%. And
yeah, and
she,
that's
her
the
credit score is
norm.
800.
That's the norm right now. It used to be that most credit card companies, their interest rate ranged from about 18 to about 23%. The
Right.
only cards that had like a really high interest rate was like an American Express.
Mhm.
Now everybody's on the American Express level. So that's even more of a reason. Like if you are not disciplined enough to have credit cards and manage them properly, don't have credit cards. And
Mhm.
I tell anyone who's just starting with their finance journey,
Mhm.
you need to like ask yourself, why do you need this card? I get a lot of
Right.
calls from clients where they're like, I see my credit score is increasing because of the work we're doing. You think I should open this card? And the first thing I say is, what do you need that card for? What did
Right.
you need it
What
for?
what
You
do
didn't
we do
need it
all this work for?
yesterday. Like, what changed? You didn't need that. So why are we trying to do that?
Right.
And it's a lot of people just don't know. They see opportunity. They see, okay,
Mhm.
I've been approved for, I got pre-approval for this. maybe I should get it. And I think people just need to ask themselves, does that pre-approval or does that card align with your financial goals? Because if it doesn't,
Yeah.
don't do that.
And when you do apply for a credit card, now correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not the expert. That's a soft hit too on your credit, right?
It's actually, it could be a soft one or it
Or-
could be a hard one, depending on
Right.
the creditor.
Okay.
So some credit card companies, they'll only check one credit report. Some of them will check all three. And unless you know exactly what the requirements are for the credit card company, I would say if you're starting on your finance journey, avoid credit cards. They're fun once you get to the other side because I
Right.
mean, like I said, I have an American Express that I use strictly for travel, and I
Right.
do that because I get a ton of benefits. I get complimentary upgrades because it's tied with Delta, so I get complimentary upgrades to first class. It's great. It's
Right.
great.
I feel you on that. Yes.
Yeah, but I've worked to get here, so I'm gonna enjoy
Exactly.
this life. But when I was first starting my journey, I literally cut up credit cards just so I wouldn't use them because I'm
Hmm.
like, I need to focus on paying these off. And it
Right.
worked. It helped me just get in the mindset like I can't swipe it, I need to pay it. So
Right. Now, what do you say to people, because sometimes to get certain resources, they're like, well, you don't have any credit. So
mhm,
then people feel compelled to get a credit card because of
mhm.
that as a result. So what do you say to those type of people?
So for people who don't have any credit, there is a way to start building your credit
Okay.
immediately. You can get what's called a secured credit card. It's,
Hmm.
it's a credit card, but you're actually putting down a deposit on
Hmm.
that card. So
Hmm.
the idea is you put down a deposit and you make monthly payments to that card. So it's basically like, let's say you get approved for a credit line of $200.
Hmm.
Okay. You're going to give them $200. So it maxes out the card. That's the
Right.
concept. And
Okay.
then over a period of time, you're going to be making payments to pay that card down. So you can't use the card. You don't want to use the card. You want to just focus on paying the card down because that is going to help you build payment history. That's going to help you build a credit score. Another thing that people can do, which I only recommend if I only recommend doing this if the person that you tie yourself to is someone that you trust.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. So you could have someone add you as an authorized user to one of their cards. But again, you need to trust this person, trust that they make positive financial decisions. You
Hmm.
need to trust that they are not maxing out their cards because if they max out their cards, that's going to affect your credit score. So I added my son to one of my credit cards when he was 15 because I wanted to start building his credit. And
Hmm.
I added him to a card that I had like a subscription on it. Like I used it once a month to pay something, like pay some
Hmm.
subscription, but then I would pay it down. So it never, like I would pay it off. It never had high utilization. And he got that payment history for 3 full years from 15 to 18. So
Wow.
now he's still on the card because, I mean, why not? It's,
Right.
but now he's building up his own credit as well. But since I did that for him, he didn't have to get a secured card. He got his own student credit card that he's managing responsibly now to help just build up his credit even more. So if
That's
you're thinking
awesome.
about like being an authorized user on someone's card, just make sure it's someone that you really trust and
Yeah.
you understand their financial habits because
And in turn, when you're an authorized user, that doesn't mean you can abuse it because it still will count
no.
against you as
Well,
well.
and to that point, I always recommend that if you are an authorized user on someone's credit card,
Uh-huh.
don't get your own card. Don't have them give you the card.
Mm.
Just
Just for
just
the
be the
name.
authorized user. Just it's just for reporting purposes. You don't need that card. Like when I added my son as an authorized user, the company sent me a card with his name on it. It's been in my safe for for 4 years now because
Yeah,
he doesn't
I
need
don't
it.
blame you. I was trying to
So,
get my sister to add me to hers just because I just wanted to use the perks. I
I
was
mean,
like,
yeah.
there's that
And
too.
and that's the thing, like you having that relationship, like that's your sister. Like
Right.
you know your
She said
sister.
no. She said no.
Okay, all right.
And I was just like, okay. But I pay my bills off in full. But okay. Thank
It's
you.
fine. It's all right. But I would never suggest like the person you're dating, like if you're just
Oh yeah.
dating someone, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yes. Please until you have a ring on your finger, people, please do not mix finances. Don't think, oh, well, I know he's gonna marry me. We live together, so we're gonna have a joint account.
Say that.
No,
Say that.
no. Girl, I got some stories. That's gonna be a part two.
Listen, we have
That
made
is crazy.
mistakes. Okay, we have made mistakes before, and again, when you get to the other side and you see how good life can be, and when you do take care of your money, it's
Mhm.
worth it. It's worth the sacrifice for maybe a couple years. You got to just put in some work. I promise you, it's worth it. And I'm reminded all the time just how just how grateful I am to be on the other side. Because last month I had three very large, unplanned expenses. Like
Mhm.
I had to get some trees removed.
Oh
I
wow.
had I had dental work that I had to pay out of pocket for the bulk of it. It was
Mhm.
just like cost after cost in the span of like a week and a half. And
Yeah, no,
old
good to
me,
save.
yeah, old
Right.
me would have been stressed out. Old me would have had to open a card or take out a loan or something like that.
Right.
This version of me, I literally just pulled it from my savings without a problem. I pulled it from my savings, I took care of it. And now, of course, I'm focused on replenishing my savings because
Right.
financial trauma, when you have financial trauma, you want to do everything you can to make sure you don't get in the spot that you were. So for
Yeah,
my
it
comfort
hit a certain
level,
threshold. You like, I like to
girl,
keep it above.
girl, like the stress and
That's how I feel. I was like, I done made too many mistakes where that savings is a little bit below my
a little
threshold,
too
and I'm just like,
low for me. Like,
oh,
and I had to actually like stop myself a little bit too though, because I was starting to stress about it a bit because I'm like,
hmm
oh God, I got to put the money back.
right,
But perspective is everything, and I
yeah,
know how it felt all those years ago when I was struggling to feed my kid, literally
right,
struggling to buy toothpaste, like
yeah.
literally.
No, I
And
got
now it's like, yeah, I don't want to have to pay $2,500 for two trees to be removed. Two, just two.
yeah.
I
I
don't
know
want to do
that's an
that.
expensive cost actually with the
I
landscaping.
don't, I didn't want to have to do that, but I did
Nobody
it
wants to do that.
because
Yeah.
we done
And then
had
tree roots
hurricanes.
and everything else that goes with it as well too.
Exactly. And so I just like perspective is everything, and it just reminded me like I'm so grateful that I had the mindset to educate myself
Hmm.
and to learn just what to do. And I know like a lot of financial wellness coaches will say like, well, you can educate yourself, you can just go online and research.
Hmm.
Now back then when I was looking things up, I feel like it was a lot easier to find credible information.
Yeah,
Now it's a little harder
yeah,
because social media is what it is. There's just so many experts out here, and I just feel like it's a little bit harder now to sort through the madness. And again, that's why I do what I do because it's like sometimes people just need to understand your situation and hold your hand a bit. And
right.
everybody's financial situation is different. Like
It is.
it's different. And sometimes you just need someone to confide in. You need somebody to help you really out the mud. And that's what I
Hmm.
try and like be for all of my clients. It's like, we're gonna get this together. Like, we're gonna get it together, and you're going to see that all you have to do is just change a couple of your habits, change your mindset, and you're gonna see progress. And we're gonna track
Yeah.
your progress. And I
And it
think
takes
like
time.
it
It
takes
takes time. You
time.
have to be patient
It takes
because
time.
it didn't take you long to get there.
Exactly. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes discipline.
Yeah.
It takes just knowing that you can get on the other side of it. Because if I can do it, if I can do it, anybody, anybody can
Right.
do this.
And that's
And
the thing, you never know like what people are going through behind the scenes, you know.
never.
And, like a lot of people suffer with, financial struggles,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, and then they go to things that it's, not becoming,
Yeah.
as a result. And I think it's important to note too that like although you may feel like you're in a space where you are living paycheck to paycheck, even
Mm-hmm.
if you save, $5 a week, or
$5, $10.
yeah, it adds
Adds
up at
up.
the end. Like put that in that cookie jar
Yes,
or whatever jar, and let it just add up on its
literally.
own, and you'll see how quickly those things will develop. But to your point about habits, you doing something that simple will really make a huge,
Huge.
impact. And with social media being as big as it is and all these
Mhm.
different outlets, I think it's very important to talk about, and you mentioned this, I believe, in the beginning, about multiple streams of income is very
Oh, yeah.
important. We all have so many talents. And yes, we may not wake up and realize what they are. For
Mhm.
those that did, they're blessed to have
Mhm.
it found it so quickly. But others, take that time and really figure out what are you good at? What can you teach the
Yep,
world? What can you bring to the world? Because your talents will pay for itself, and
agreed.
be another stream of income too,
For,
right?
for sure, for sure. And I will say this when it comes to multiple streams of income, some people just think that they don't have time, which I completely understand. If you are
Hmm.
already working full time and you got kids, you got a husband or a wife, and you just feel like your time is already limited, I get it. But that's when we got to be creative because in today's time, there are a lot of remote and virtual opportunities out there that can give you
Hmm.
a quick dollar that you can then apply to some debt. Okay. I also think that it's important if you do take on side hustles, take them on with a purpose so you
Hmm.
don't burn yourself out. Say I'm
Right.
going to do this for 6 months to pay off this debt. And then when this debt is paid off, I'm going to scale back. I might not do that side hustle anymore. It could be pet sitting.
Hmm.
It could be so many different things, but to your point, take a look at the things that you're already doing and take a look at what your skills are and see how you can how you can use those skills to make you more money. Because I, for a long time, was side hustle queen. I've been a
Mhm.
virtual assistant. I have sold things, like just listed things on Facebook Marketplace just because why do I have this stuff if I'm not
Right.
using it and I can make a buck? I have done writing projects for people. Somebody doesn't they don't like typing. They don't want to put
Right.
this together. Okay, I'll put it together and this is what you pay me. I've always done things with a
That's awesome.
purpose, and then I've been able to take that money and use it to help me meet my goals. But when those goals are met, I am quick to say, let me not do these side hustles anymore and let me focus on just enjoying life and not working myself to the bone. Because I
Right.
don't think that I think as a culture or just as a society, like a lot of us are in this constant like hustle. I have to be busy.
Hmm.
I have
Yeah.
to bring everything in. And then we get on social media and we see all these people who are lying about their lives.
Yes.
They're lying about their realities. Nothing you see on social media is the
Yeah.
reality.
Not at all.
And I think we compare ourselves to what we see, and then we
Hmm.
think, like, I should be making more money. I should be doing this and this. And unless you have a purpose for the side hustle, don't do the side hustle. Okay.
Right.
Like I have a side hustle right now. I have three main streams of income right now. I have my business. I have I have a career outside of my business as well, and then I have a side hustle. The side hustle that I currently have, I strictly use that for like savings. That's it. I
Mhm.
don't even see the money. Like it's deposited into an account once a month and I don't touch it.
Yeah.
So
That's the
it has
best
a
way to do
purpose.
it. You see
Yeah,
it, then you want to touch it.
yeah, it has a purpose. Now, I do think that being intentional about your savings is also important. So
Mhm.
even though that money goes into a savings account, I
Mhm.
have I have like buckets within that savings account for different
Mhm.
things. So I have a bucket that's dedicated to vacations. I have a bucket that's dedicated to like home expenses and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So depending on what financial institution you use to save, they may have a way to set up buckets so that you're saving, you're putting your money in, but some of it's going towards this savings account, some of it's going towards that, like another savings account. So I do it kind of that way just because
Right.
I like
That
to save for many different things. I like to save for trips. I like to
makes
I like to save for anticipated home costs for
exactly.
like being a homeowner, you know. I
Or
like
car costs, things of that.
yeah.
Anything can come up.
Yeah, so I like to save a multiple different ways, and that side hustle allows me to do that. Plus, it's not a hard side hustle at all. So I
Mhm.
don't mind doing it right now because it's paying me once a month. I can put that money in savings and just move on.
Yeah.
So we have to, when we're just starting our financial journey though, we have to get creative about like, what am I good at?
Mhm.
What can I do to generate more income and use that income to get me on my feet and help me meet my financial goals? And once you meet those goals now, enjoy life.
Yeah,
Because
and that's what it's about too. And I'll close on this note is that, we don't work to, work our entire lives. You
yeah,
know
we
what I
shouldn't
mean? Like
live to
our
work.
grandparents or right now the baby boomer generation. I mean, some of them now, like the retirement age is getting later and later. I mean, my aunt retired at 70,
Yeah,
and
I
some
refuse.
people still working past 70. And it's just like, you work all these years, but then you have a small window of time to enjoy it.
Yeah,
So why not enjoy it while you're earning it?
yeah. Enjoy it
Budget
while you're earning it.
accordingly,
Yeah, for
do what
sure.
you need to do to live. Like it's
Yeah,
all about living. And, that has so many other benefits when you're able to live and do the things that you want without being able to stress out from a financial
exactly.
perspective, for sure.
Exactly.
So,
And that's why the sacrifice in the beginning and focusing on getting your finances together is so worth it because once you're on the other side, you can like I'm doing stuff in my life that I'm telling you at 25, when I was 25, I didn't see
mm,
this for me. Like traveling is my love language. I will book a flight just because I miss my mama. I did that a couple weeks
right,
ago. I just went home because I miss my mama. I'll book a flight because I want to try a different meal. Things like
right,
that. Like I'm living because I took the time to take care of my money instead of just
yeah,
like avoiding it and just
yeah.
accepting that this is reality. I'm just going to live paycheck to paycheck. Like, no, I sacrificed and I educated myself and I took those actionable steps to get out of the hole that I was in. And life really can be good on the other side. It really can.
No, I totally agree. Now, if someone wants to, contact you, outside of this podcast to, sign up for your services or to, do a consultation, how should they
Yeah.
reach you?
So I have a website. It's bellefinancialservices.com. I'm also on TikTok, Instagram, TikTok mostly. I get a lot of clients from TikTok. And it's just Belle Financial Services, Belle Financial Services. The link to my Calendly to actually book a consultation is in my TikTok profile and my IG profile. And I offer three different options actually. So I offer one-on-one, just one-time consultations if you have a quick financial situation that you just need some advice on and you just want to talk for 60 minutes, we can do that. But I also have a 6-month plan and I have a quarterly option too, because sometimes people just need that hand holding for six
Yeah,
months
that's awesome.
or yeah, or they need that quarterly check-in. So I do offer those options as well. I will tell you this though, that with the consultations comes some pre-work because I'm going to need I'm going to need to know what we're talking about before we're sitting down
That
together.
makes sense.
So,
So you can have a more effective conversation.
Yeah.
I get that. Like,
So it's not super invasive, but there is pre-work that's required. That just gives me a opportunity to get to know your financial situation before I meet you like virtually. And I think it's good to just having that document too and being able to write down what's going on. I think it's also therapeutic for the client as well. So yeah, but you can reach me on all the things Bell Financial Services.
no, that's awesome. Well, I definitely enjoyed our conversation.
It
And, we will
was so
definitely, I
good.
think, have to do a part two for
No,
sure.
really. We have to do a part two because we could do a whole part two just on the things we've been through.
Right. Oh my gosh.
That
So
could be
with
like a dating, relationship, money
all of
conversation.
that, yeah. That actually, we could make that a series. So we're going to talk after this.
Yeah,
Uh, so with that, I'll leave you all with the bottom line is, just make sure that you are making the right decisions. If you have to reach out to someone, don't feel bad because you have to reach out. Sometimes we do have to get that help. And if you find yourself in any type of financial situation, there's always a way out, and that's through discipline and just being mindful of the actions and the sacrifices that you're going to have to be making in the future. And then just really remember that we talk about generational wealth, but we need to also talk about generational education as it
for
relates to our
sure.
financials. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Write some comments here as we get ready for our series on financial wellness. And again, Wanda, I thank you so much for being a guest on the Bottom Line.